Today we are discussing Hyderabad state in independent India. The term Hyderabad state is very special. What is Hyderabad state? We are not saying Telangana state. We are saying Hyderabad state. Hyderabad state is the state which was ruled by Nizam. Hyderabad state is part of the Nizam's dominion, which became part of the Indian Union when in 1947, August 15th, India became independent. Hyderabad was not part of the independent India. Hyderabad state we are talking about today is the state ruled by erstwhile Nizam and later getting integrated into Indian Union. So today we are going to talk about the Hyderabad state in independent India. This is the period between September 1948 to 1956. Why this date? September 1948 is the period when the Hyderabad state was merged with Indian Union. I am using the term merger, or you can use the term accession. It is not independence. It is merger or accession. These are the political terms used in 1948 September 17th when the Indian Union has organized an operation, a military operation merging this territory with Indian Union. So this is the period we are talking about. So beginning with the role or the part, being the part of Indian Union, and next 1956 is the deadline. What is this 1956? 1956 signifies the formation of Andhra Pradesh. So the period is with the merger with Indian Union, we are talking till the formation of Andhra Pradesh. What has happened in this Hyderabad state? So the topic deals with, that is, first one is introduction, then formation of popular ministry under Burgula Ramakrishna Rao in 1952 and the Mulki agitation. Then demand for demand of the locals for employment, which is known as Mulki movement, and city college incidents and its importance in the future course of Telangana history. And last one is, this concludes with the Justice Jagan Mohan Reddy Committee report, which was submitted in 1953. So this period, this class intends to deal about these topics today. First, let's see what is happening on 17th September 1948. We call it as Operation Polo. What is this Operation Polo? As we have already discussed in the other topics before, this Operation Polo is nothing but, this is Indian Union's army entering into Hyderabad and forcibly merging or taking the Nizam's territories into accession into Indian Union. That is Operation Polo. A Major General J.N. Chowdhury, Jayanto Natha Chowdhury, led this operation from one side. There are other generals too, like Major General Rudra was there, who is coming into Hyderabad's territory from other side. But this Major General J.N. Chowdhury entered Hyderabad for the first time. Actually, those who enter into the territory, enemy's territory or occupying territory first, will become the de facto ruler, or he will be asked to rule that area. That is the general military principle. That is why J.N. Chowdhury, as he has entered into Hyderabad state and the capital, that is Hyderabad first. So J.N. Chowdhury became the military ruler of Hyderabad state immediately after the surrender of Idrus. This Idrus is none other than the military commander of Nizam. He surrendered, as we can see the image, Idrus surrendering before Major General J.N. Chowdhury. So after Operation Polo, this man, Major General J.N. Chowdhury, became the military administrator of Hyderabad state. And this continued for a few months, you can say for about 1 year. So in December 1949, a new dispensation came into Hyderabad. A new authority has come into Hyderabad, that is civilian government. What is this civilian government? Till now you have the military rule under J.N. Chowdhury. And then December 1949, a new administrator, a Indian Civil Services officer, Mr. M.K. Vellodi, was appointed as the Chief Minister of Hyderabad state. Chief Minister, remember this word, appointed as chief minister. We are not saying the elected chief minister. Elected chief minister will be through elections only. He was appointed as the chief minister of Hyderabad state. Why he has to be appointed? Why the transition from the military government to civilian government? This is very interesting. What has happened? Many of the books, actually, we could not give such materials. We could not get the materials before. But with the opening of document which was not in the public domain, which was a restricted document, that is Sundarlal Committee report. This is very important. This can be asked in your examination. Sundarlal Committee, Pandit Sundarlal Committee report. What is this Pandit Sundarlal Committee report? Pandit Sundarlal Committee was appointed by Nehru when there was allegations that lot of excesses were committed by Indian Army when they were entering into Hyderabad or taking power into their hands. Many people, especially Muslims, who were not Razakars. Razakars force, Razakars are the people who were the hoodlums, who are the gangsters like people. That is, it is not a military force, but they were under the Nizam's control, but at the same time they were creating panic in the entire Telangana. This Razakar force is a different story. But Muslims, all Muslims are not Razakars. Not all Razakars are Muslims. This is another point we should remember or we should recollect. Many people, many landlords, though Hindu landlords, they were aligned with Razakars. Though Razakar movement having a base of a Islamic resurgence in that sense, it is not just a Muslim force. It is a feudal force. This Razakar force was completely subjugated by Indian Army, no doubt. But at the same time, thousands of innocent Muslims were killed en route by Indian Army. This was the allegation. And this allegation was countered. To counter this allegation was countered in the parliament by some people. Then again, Pandit Sundarlal Committee was appointed by Nehru to look into this. And 3-member committee came to Hyderabad. They have toured extensively in the entire area. And finally, they came out with a report. What does that report say? That report said, yes, it's true. There were many excesses. Excesses means it is not in hundreds. It is in thousands. He is giving around 25 to 30,000 casualties or deaths because of these excesses. Non-Razakar Muslims were targeted by Indian Army. This was the saying. Then Sardar Patel asked to stop this report, not to table it or not to make it open. And under the pressure of Sardar Patel's only contention was this will diminish the morale of the Indian Army. This was his contention. So finally, because of this pressure, this document became a restricted document, a secret document, and it was in the archives till 2012. This became open now. But whether they came out with the report or not, it's a different story. But what has happened? Sundarlal Committee report clearly said there were excesses. And at the same time, there were allegations on Indian Army's rule in Hyderabad state. Because already this is a very, very tumultuous situation. It is simmering situation in Hyderabad state. One dispensation has gone, one rule has gone, Nizam has gone, and people were completely to change themselves to the other rule, Indian Union's rule. In this period, there were a lot of problems, and Indian Army was in the middle of the storm. So, the excesses were discussed in the parliament also. These are all the recordings we have in the parliamentary proceedings. So finally, what has happened? Because of these allegations and debates, the military rule was replaced by a civilian government under Mr. M.K. Vellodi, an ICS officer. His rule started from 26 January 1950 till March 1952. March 1952 is the date when the next government is coming, that is Burgula Ramakrishna Rao's elected government will come. So, what has happened with Nizam? Now, a civilian government has come into existence in 1950 from 26 January. At the same time, another change is also happening in the political scenario. Till now, Nizam was the ruler. Nizam was the king. Nizam was everything. Now, it is not that. Now, this part is part of the Indian Union, and Nizam was offered a new post, that is Raj Pramukh. Raj Pramukh, you can equate with the governor of today, but this Raj Pramukh post was offered to him, and he took the oath on 26 January as the Raj Pramukh. So very interesting thing happened. After the accession of Telangana into Indian Union, two things changed. One thing is the rule has changed, no doubt, but many of the officials of Nizam were imprisoned or kept in the house arrest, under house arrest, and but only Nizam was spared. Nizam was spared and he became the Raj Pramukh. Why he has become Nizam Raj Pramukh? It is again a different story, because it deals with the Indian Union's policy with the princely states. Because I am talking about this because many will have a question. Idrus surrendered and he was arrested. His Prime Minister Layak Ali was arrested, and many other officials were imprisoned or thrown away. But Nizam is still there as the Raj Pramukh. Why it has happened? This is purely because of the policy of the Indian Union to deal with the princely states, to merge them into an Indian Union in a better way. Then, what is the extent of Hyderabad state during this period? Nizam's territory, if we just quickly go back to the previous periods, lots of things we talked about in Qutub Shahi or Asaf Zahi period. Finally, when it came to 1948, the areas under Nizam's rule, when it was acceded to India, you have these territories. First, 9 Telugu districts of Telangana. Why we are calling 9 Telugu districts? 10 Telugu districts were there till recently. Now it is 31. We call 9 because when these things were talked about, it was 9 districts. 9 districts of Telangana, 4 districts of Karnataka of present day, and 4 Marathi districts in Aurangabad division. So, 4 in Maharashtra gone, later 1956, 4 into Karnataka. So what has happened? The remaining 9 Telangana districts, what we call today as Telangana, the Telugu speaking areas, were the part of Hyderabad state. What are the districts? You can see there were 16 districts. Altogether, all these districts were grouped into 16 districts, and all these 14 were placed into 4 divisions. One division, Aurangabad division. That is Aurangabad, Beed, Nanded and Parbhani. These are all part of Maharashtra. Then Gulbarga division, Bidar, Gulbarga, Usmanabad and Raichur. This is part of Karnataka. Forget these two. For your examination, these two things, you have to remember that there are 4 divisions. That is Aurangabad plus Gulbarga. You need not worry about the districts. But come to our Telangana state of present day and the parts of Telangana in those days. There are 2 divisions, 2 more divisions. First is Aurangabad, second is Gulbarga, third is Gulshanabad. What is Gulshanabad? Today we call it as Medak. Medak division was known as Gulshanabad division. What are they? What districts were there in Gulshanabad division? Atraf-e-Balda. Atraf-e-Balda. Atraf-e-Balda means proper Hyderabad. Next, Mahbubnagar district, Medak district, Nalgonda district and Nizamabad district. Leave this Nizamabad district. All the areas what we call today as South Telangana are into Medak division. Then remaining North Telangana part were under Warangal division. So the 4th division is Warangal division. What is the Warangal division? Adilabad, Karimnagar, Warangal. These 3 districts are part of Warangal division. Then what about Khammam? Khammam was part of Warangal in those days. So North Telangana was part of, mostly, you can say broadly, North Telangana districts of today were part of Warangal district. Remaining left is Nizamabad. And South Telangana districts were under Gulshanabad division, that is Medak division. In your examination, this name Gulshanabad can be asked in your prelims. So remember this word, Gulshanabad. So this is the extent of our Hyderabad state in 1952. Then comes the first general election in 1952. Our Indian Constitution came into existence in 1950, 26 January, you know. Then comes this first general election happening in the state, that is Hyderabad state. And 1952 has given the first elected chief minister to Hyderabad state, that is Burgula Ramakrishna Rao. Burgula Ramakrishna Rao, born in Telangana, educated, went up to Princeton College, Mumbai and everywhere. He studied law and he was a practicing lawyer and a congressman. Burgula Ramakrishna Rao's history we have studied in AP, Telangana history long ago, in other topics also. Burgula Ramakrishna Rao, very important and an active person in all the cultural, social and political activities of Hyderabad state starting from 1930s. We can see Hyderabad, Nizam Rashtra, Andhra Jana Sangam and all those periods. Next comes this Burugula Ramakrishna Rao's names everywhere. So, a socio-cultural plus political activist, Burugula Ramakrishna Rao, a leader in the Congress, became the first elected president of Hyderabad state in 1952. He took oath on 6th March 1952 and remained in power till October 56. To sum up some generalizations about Burugula Ramakrishna Rao's period, tenure, we'll have other topics. But to understand Burugula Ramakrishna Rao, he has taken very gloriously the power in the Hyderabad state. He led the Hyderabad state into an independent Hyderabad state, not a feudal Hyderabad state like Nizam. That is a very credible aspect. But very unfortunately, when he was resigned, when he was resigning, unfortunately what is happening? He has to leave and make way for a new territorial identity known as Andhra Pradesh. So, the only chief minister of Hyderabad state in independent India is Burugula Ramakrishna Rao. He has to accept the merger of Hyderabad state with Andhra state to form Andhra Pradesh. This was the beginnings and end of it. We'll be talking about Burugula Ramakrishna Rao's position in the next chapter when we talk about the formation of Andhra Pradesh and different aspects happening in between. Then we'll talk about it. Now, Burugula Ramakrishna Rao had 8 members in his ministry. As we can see, Digambar Rao Bindu, a stalwart, Home, K.V. Rangareddy, Excise and Forests, Vinayak Rao Vidyalankar, Commerce and Industries, G.S. Melkote, Finance and Statistics, Mehdi Nawaz Jeng, Public Health and Public Works, Marri Chinnardi, Agriculture and Planning, Anna Rao Gnanamukhi, Rural Reconstruction and Education, Shankar Dev, Social Welfare. Among these names, we have a few names which we will be talking about in the next chapters also. So, I will be mentioning about them now. One is K.V. Rangareddy, remember about this leader. K.V. Rangareddy, on whose name we have a district too. K.V. Rangareddy was a grand old man who has contributed to the identity of Telangana starting from 1930s till his death. Then G.S. Melkote was one of the person who was actively involved in Hyderabad city also as a social activist plus a political activist. And Marri Chinnaredi, as we know him, he was the leader, he was the cabinet minister in Burugula Ramakrishna Rao ministry. Later, he became chief minister. He became governor. He has taken up many posts. He became chief minister of Andhra Pradesh twice in different periods. Then, these are the important people. These 8 members were in the cabinet of Burugula Ramakrishna Rao. We have to talk about the achievement of Burugula government. What are the achievements? Before talking about the achievements, we should, bring out the scenario, what was unveiling immediately after 1948 September 17th. Once Nizam has gone, once we are into Indian Union, whether into military rule or a civilian rule, what are the changes happening in the government? What are the changes happening in the society? What are the changes happening in the people's psyche? This is very important. Because Hyderabad state is very interesting because it has undergone lots of changes very fast. It was part of Nizam, became independent state. It was opposing, again became part of Andhra Pradesh. Even after becoming part of Andhra Pradesh, again it was fighting for its identity. So Hyderabad state or Telangana. Now Telangana is part of Hyderabad state. But then Karnataka and Maharashtra were there. That is why we call it as Hyderabad state only, not Telangana. Telangana is part of Hyderabad state. So here, the conditions which were present during this period are very, very interesting. What was the condition? Just I am trying to unveil the aspects what is happening. One thing, in economic side or rural agricultural scenario, we talk about the feudal system. Nizam is a feudal, he is a king. Under him, you have paigas, that is nobles. You have zamindars, you have big landlords. Under him, you have many people who are completely ruling the rural scenario. They are the people who are really dictating terms in rural society. Now, at this juncture, we should remember 1948 September 17, we are having another context too. What is the another context? I am trying to explain the scenario so that we can understand what government of Burgula could achieve or could not achieve. The other scenario is there are other contending forces, that is Telangana Armed Struggle Forces under the leadership of CPI, who were fighting the landlords. They were fighting the Razakars, they were fighting the landlords who are led by Nizam. Nizam is the pinnacle. Nizam is at the top of the pyramid, and below you have the Paigas, nobles and royals. Then you have the Zamindars and landlords. So this entire economic system, this feudal pyramid, at the top is Nizam. So communists were fighting Nizam. At the same time, Razakars were also there in the ground. They were fighting Razakars. And they were fighting the landlords supported by this feudal system. So 17 September 1948, there were third force known as communists in the area. One is Nizam, second is Indian Union, the third force is communists. In this juncture, what is happening? Military government is coming, and its military government, wherever there is a military government, its first priority is law and order. They have to fight for law and order, they have to restore law and order. Then only you can talk about the civil administration and other things. So it has happened in the initial years. But at the same time, the state is very much concerned about the economic things also, because it is administration which is very important. Without administration, military can suppress a regime, military can remove a rule and replace the king, but without a proper administration, you can't have the next set of rule in this area. So these things are happening here. Then what is happening in society? The entire society is undergoing a process of change. What sort of change? First, we can talk about the simmering. Simmering means the situation which is boiling in the society. One is Muslims were targeted by the Indian army according to Sundarlal Committee report. At the same time, now as the Nizam's rule has gone, there is some sort of discontent in the society, in the Muslim society, number one. Second thing, the people who were completely ignored in this period were into power. Congress, which could not make any impact under Nizam rule, though they were fighting. Communists, remember, communists and Congress, both were fighting on the same line. At some point of time, you can say communists were having upper hand over the Congress in many areas. That is why when the next elections are happening, most of the seats were, in 55 elections, most of the seats were won by communists in Telangana than Congress. This is very interesting. Why it is happening? Because communists were having their power, their influence in the rural packets, especially in Nalgonda, Warangal. You can see there is a strong centers of anti-Nizam, anti-feudal movement. So this is one thing. In this scenario, what is happening? The first concern of the state is economic stability. You can capture the area, but it will not give you the rule. You should have economic stability. What was the condition of economy in this period? Economics were very bad. Why? Nizam was spending money on the arms in this period. Spending money on arms, and then the whole administration was in disarray in the last 2 years. In this background, the condition of Hyderabad state, economic condition was bad. Very interestingly, this economic condition becoming bad is happening after a long time. After the Salarjung reforms, as we have studied before, Salarjung reforms gave Hyderabad economic stability by 1880. And after 1880, by 1920s or 30s, the ruler of Hyderabad has become so rich. Nizam was the richest man in the world. So that economic stability has gone back. Now that economic stability has to be brought back. This is first concern. Second concern is abolition of Jagirdari system. Abolition of Jagirdari system will definitely ease the rule, because Jagirdars, landlords, all these people were the real power structures in the rural scenario. If you don't remove these structures, if you don't remove this system, what will happen? The entire society will collapse, because the same feudal system will be there, but people are in independent India. It will not suit the new democracy. So that is why the next abolition of Jagirdari system is the another achievement. Third one is land reforms. We'll talk in detail about the land reforms in the next few minutes. And land reforms are the important thing. And very interestingly, Hyderabad state has brought in land reforms in 1949 to 1952, which are progressive, which gave some results. Not completely, it has changed the production relations in the village side, but at least it could change to some extent. And next point is countering communists. Burgula Ramakrishna Rao has another task, that is communists, because Communist Party, as just now I said, Communist Party was so powerful. In the rural scenario, in the rural landscape, they had a lot of influence. All this influence was very important to stabilize the government. Otherwise, because by 1952, when Burgula has taken over the power, by this time they have gone back. Means the Telangana armed struggle was on a setback. They are not fighting in the villages, but still they did not completely give up arms. So what has happened? Countering the influence of communists is the next task of Burgula government. Then Mulki rule. This is the soul of your Telangana issue. Always we fought for the employment, and Mulki, Gair Mulki are the terms, mantras we always had in our discourse. Mulki rule, Burgula came to power. Within a few months he has to encounter a new situation where Mulki movement has started. So this is the next point. And last is creation of trust and confidence in law and order. Definitely, this is the essence of all these things. Burgula government has to counter all these issues, economy on the economic front, on political front, and the law and order front. So we will see what are the achievements Burgula government has done. So we are talking about the challenges before Burgula Ramakrishna Rao's government. Burgula's government, as we have enlisted, the first point is economic stability. Economic stability is very interesting and important. Very interesting aspect. I am talking about economic stability, which we will be discussing later also. Remember, Hyderabad state was in economic disarray, and a problem was there in the field of economy during this period, in the initial years. But by 1956, Hyderabad state was a surplus state. Hyderabad state, surplus state in 1956. Andhra state, deficit state. Again, we can see the same scenario when Andhra Pradesh has been divided or Telangana has been formed. Telangana is a surplus state, Andhra Pradesh is a deficit state. Of course, I leave it to your discussion, your understanding, and our analysis in the latter part. We will talk about it, this aspect of surplus or deficit, in the next portions when we talk about the economy in Andhra Pradesh. So now, economy in disarray in Hyderabad state. So, as I have said, Nizam has spent a lot of money on arms. 22 crores were spent on arms and campaign for autonomy. What is this campaign for autonomy? Nizam has to lobby for the campaign for autonomy. He is not ready to join into Indian Union. So he was campaigning everywhere. Where? In Delhi, in United Nations. So all these places, when you are going into the campaign mode, you have to spend a lot of money. So these 22 crores were spent on those things. So finally, the economy, thanks to all these mismanagements, and economy was in doldrums. So what has happened? The state government, on the advice of central government, has appointed a committee known as Gorwala Committee. This Gorwala, A.D. Gorwala, a retired ICS officer, was appointed as chairman in 1950, and the same year, in the month of October, he has submitted a report, suggested administrative and economic reforms, and he has promised that if you follow these administrative and economic reforms, you will be having 350 crore rupees surplus. And very interestingly, this economic stability has been achieved by Burgula government by the end of his tenure, we can see. And Burgula, as the Minister of Revenue in the cabinet of Vellodi, when civilian cabinet was announced, and Burgula was inducted into it. He was revenue minister. So he had the experience of revenue minister and next chief minister. So Gorbala committee's report was implemented thoroughly and Hyderabad state could achieve the economic stability. By 1952 itself, so by 1952 itself, they could achieve the economic equilibrium. By 56, we are becoming surplus. This is the stats which speak. Then comes the land reforms. What about land reforms? See, as I said, Hyderabad state is a feudal state. Lots of feudal landlords. There were many feudal landlords in different areas. We have studied, we have understood, we have read about many landlords having 1,50,000 acres. Vishnu Pratap Reddy, Vishnu Ramchandra Reddy, Jannaram Pratap Reddy like people. So, all these people were having lots of lands under their control and poor peasants were there. This discussion about peasantry and landlords were done in the other topic also. What is the other topic? That is Telangana armed struggle. The contradiction between the poor peasants, bonded labor, marginal peasants, small farmers and middle farmers and even some rich peasants or rich farmers. These people were against the landlords, against the feudalism in this period. So take this as a cue. So this is the feudal system you have. In this background, we have to bring in land reforms. If you don't bring in land reforms at this point of time, what will happen? Again, the same feudal system will continue and you will not have the real democratic rule in the state. So first is land reforms. So land reforms, there were legislations between 1949 and 54. And among these legislations, the first legislation which is very important is done in August 1949, the Jagirdari Abolition Regulation Regulation Act. Jagirdari abolition. What is a Jagir? You know, as you have studied, you have come up to this phase. Jagirs were the lands given by the rulers to the powers to be in the rural areas. And these people control lots of tracts of land in villages. Many villages are becoming a Jagir of one particular Jagirdar. And this Jagirdar will collect the revenue, give it to the king. At the same time, the Jagirdar will be having the policing powers, they will be having the administrative powers, they will be controlling the entire rural areas. So these Jagirdar should be controlled now, otherwise the independence is of no use. So abolition of Jagirdari system is the important activity. Then this is aimed to eradicate the exploitation of the farmers, number one. Because without eradication of this Jagirdari system, you will not have the exploitation and you can't end the exploitation. This is number one. Second one, Jagirdars are the middlemen or the intermediaries between the state and the people. If you don't remove the Jagirdars, what will happen? You have an intermediary, means a middleman who will be exploiting the lowest rung of people, that is peasantry. On the other hand, you have the other people known as the other side, that is king or the state. Though the exploitation is two sides. From here they will be collecting the taxes, but they will be paying something and they will not pay the state. In that way, state will not become rich. At the same time, the people who are real producers are being exploited by the Jagirdars. So what will happen in this entire process? This intermediary is the main culprit who is a very important link in the feudal system. So now the Jagirdar system should be abolished. So this act is aimed at that. Abolishing the intermediaries between the government, landowners and tenants. But there is still some lacunae, because this is the first time you are enacting such laws. You have to undergo some real processes. So, though they could remove Jagirdars, they could not change the land holding pattern. What is the meaning of land holding pattern? Means the way people hold the lands, the way landlords control the lands. Very interestingly, after this abolition of Jagirdar system, the legal status of Jagirdars has gone, but still they were holding the lands with them. That is one aspect. But the power, political power, economic power, revenue power, political power, revenue power and administrative power legally has waded. Means it is wading away, gradually going away. It hasn't gone with the just one abolition of act. Remember, it has taken a lot of time. Like you can see, even after this Jagirdari Abolition Act, we will talk about 1970s movements. we talk about the peasant movement in North Telangana. The other chapter we will be discussing. So still feudalism was continuing. So this is the first step in the direction. So last point under this Jagirdar system abolition is the confiscation of surface lands and peshkash lands. What is surface land? Surface land is the lands of the king. In the entire kingdom, some lands will be owned by the king. Those lands are known as surface lands. The income generated by these surface lands, by giving it to the tenants or the other people, the income will be going to the private treasury of the king, that is surface. And the other one is peshkash. This is also offered lands. So surface lands and peshkash lands, the confiscation of these lands were done. Very interesting. 40% of the state-owned lands today, 40% of the state-owned lands are surface lands or peshkash lands. So what has happened? The state could gain with the abolition of Jagirdari system. Surface owned by Nizam was taken back. So now Nizam, who was getting around to 120 crores on surface lands, was offered a purse, means a compensation of 25 crores per year. This is known as, we call it as privy purse. Privy purse. Finally, this privy purse was abolished during Indira Gandhi's regime. It is happening much later. But remember about the privy purse the Nizam has got, that is 25 crores for giving his surface lands to the Hyderabad state. This is the importance of abolition of Jagirdari system. This act enacted in 1949. Next, Hyderabad Tenancy and Agricultural Lands Act, which is known as Hyderabad Tenancy Act of 1950. And the third act, Hyderabad Tenancy and Agricultural Lands Act, Amendment Act. The first one is the original act, second one is the Amendment Act. Both are aimed at the tenancy. What is tenancy? You are not the landowner, but you are a tenant. You will be taking the land on lease or rent, whatever you call it. So you are a tenant. What you are doing is you are cultivating and you are a sharecropper in that sense. This tenancy is very important. Most of the peasantry in the rural scenario are tenants too. Some have 1 acre or 1.5 acre or just half an acre, but they can't survive on that. So what they have to do? They have to take land on rent. This is tenancy. This tenancy is very important because most of the marginal farmers or small farmers are tenants. So protection of tenants' rights is very important. Otherwise, in the rural areas, you have a serious crisis, because tenants, if they don't have rights, they can be removed at their will. Landlord, if they don't want this tenant, just they will be removed. What will happen to the economic status of the tenant? Now he is completely broken. So rights of a tenant is very important. Then change from Jagirdari system to individual ownership. This tenancy is helping to change from Jagirdari system to individual ownership also. Next, small and marginal farmers, already there are there. With the rights of tenancy, with the rights of the tenants, you have more number of small and marginal farmers in the rural areas. Once your right is secure, you can confidently take land and do agriculture. So these two acts, which is aimed at the rights of the tenants, improve the conditions of the tenants in Hyderabad state. So these three acts we have talked about. Under land reforms, remember these three acts, these are very important. And the third act, which I talked about now, that is Hyderabad Tenancy and Agricultural Lands Act, which is an amendment act, is very progressive act according to many critics, many economists who worked on the land relations. So this act is considered as a very progressive act. Next, as I talked about, the next challenge is countering the communists. What is this countering the communists? As just now I explained, armed struggle was there in CPI, led by CPI in the areas of Nalgonda, Medak, Warangal and somewhere in Hyderabad. So the influence of CPI, the influence of the armed struggle has to be countered. Whether it is right or wrong, it's a different story. As the Congress government, it has to counter the political influence of other parties, and this is the task. And now another aspect is the acts, what acts you have to bring in? The Suppression of Disturbances Act, that is known as Disturbed Areas Act of Madras Presidency, was brought in to Hyderabad state, known as popularly, we call it as popularly Disturbed Areas Act. This Disturbed Areas Act was again enacted by Marri Channa Reddy in 1977, where in North Telangana, Karimnagar, Jagityala, Sirsilla, Korutla, these areas, these areas were brought into Disturbed Areas Act in 1977 again. I am going much further, but I am talking about this because this Disturbed Areas Act was brought into this Hyderabad state on two occasions. First one is armed struggle, Telangana armed struggle. Second period is again the Naxalite movement in Telangana. So this is Disturbed Areas Act. Disturbed Areas Act. In Telugu we call it as Kallolita Prantala Chettam, 1977. In 1952, the armed struggle was completely on setback. They have withdrawn the armed struggle. They have declared the armed struggle in 1946. CPI has declared the armed struggle in 1946 and withdrawn the armed struggle in 1952. So, with the withdrawal of armed struggle, now the problem of armed resurgence or armed movement in the state is gone. This is a respite for Burgula government. Burgula government has tried legally also. Actually, two types of legal problems are there. Two types of cases are there. One is the cases related to Razakars, the other is cases related to Telangana armed struggle. These two things were to be handled by Burgula government, and they did it more efficiently with the Razakars, and to some extent there were lapses and could not do much with the communists. This is the story about the countering the communists or political movements in the nascent Hyderabad state, that is the beginning of the Hyderabad state. Then comes the important topic known as Mulki rule. He has encountered a new problem. Any king or any ruler or any chief minister, the first year itself, when you come into contact with the people, the first year of rule itself, if it is having a major issue which is related to lakhs and crores of people, that is a real headache. Mulki rule or Mulki issue or Mulki problem, whatever we call, this is a very serious issue. We Telanganaites are in Telangana history. Mulki rule is a mantra, as I said. We always had this problem. Mulki. What is Mulki? What is the etymology of Mulki? As we have already discussed in the other topics, Mulk means country. Mulki means Deshi, native of this country. Mulki. Gair Mulki means non-native. He is not a native of this country or this region and came for jobs. So the discussion, the fight between the Mulkis and non-Mulkis is a continuous process. This is not a new phenomena. We had in medieval history also, we had this Mulki non-Mulki problem. But they didn't call it as Mulki and non-Mulki. They had other terms like Dakhanis and Afakis. Bahmani period, we have this serious issue. Dakhanis means the Muslims or rulers or the nobles or the armed people or the powerful people who settled in Dakhan already. The Afakis are the people who are coming from Central India or North India and trying to take the positions in the court. Under Bahmanis are these people. So Afaki is an outsider, Dakhani is a local. So the first Mulki movement, if anyone was to talk about, is the Dakhani and Afaki in medieval period. Now come to last years of our Hyderabad state in 20th century. In 19th century, means around 1880s to 1900s, there was a question of Mulki problem. Because now you are transforming from reforms, you are transforming the whole administration, you bring in new people into the administration. When you bring in new people, if you don't require, you will not bring. But if you require but you don't have qualified people, you have to bring in from outside. You are bringing in from outside. Then what will happen? The locals will be disgruntled. They will not be happy. So that Mulki issue came. Again, this Mulki issue is not new. It's a continuing process. In 1910, there was a Mulki issue in Nizam state. 1918, there was a Mulki issue in Nizam state. Then to address all these things, in 1919, Mir Usman Ali Khan has issued a farman known as Mulki Farman, And in the Farman, he has clearly said that 15 years of stay is very important. If you stay continuously for 15 years in Hyderabad state, you are a mulki. Second aspect is, for example, if they are staying here and after your retirement, if they are leaving this country I am saying consciously because it's a country in that period. Hyderabad state is another country, it's an independent kingdom. If you are leaving Hyderabad after your retirement, you will not be a mulki, you will not be given employment. You should give in writing that I will not leave after retirement. Declaration of settlement even after retirement is important. That is a mulki farman. Otherwise, what will happen? North Indian people or some other people, some other area people will come, do job and go back to their areas. So this was the mulki farman of 1919. So all these things are at one side. You have farmans, you have rules and all those things. But violations are happening. Why violations are happening? We are concerned about the violations happening in the last years of Nizam rule or after Nizam's rule. These violations are happening very blatantly during this period that led to 1952 movement. What is 1952 movement? It's a anti-mulki, anti-gair mulki movement, or non-locals were asked to leave this land. Non-locals were asked to leave Hyderabad. This is Idli Sambar go back movement. Before talking about that movement, we are talking about the violations, how they were violated. There are different phases. One thing, during the accession of Hyderabad state, when Hyderabad state is merging with Indian Union, you have new people coming into administration, then the violation is there. Second is, during the civil government under Vellodi, lot of people came with fake certificates and lot of people were recruited in the pretext of there are no eligible people. So what has happened? You have influx from Andhra. Andhra was not Andhra then. Andhra was part of the Madras province. So part of Madras province, people, Andhra, they are coming to Hyderabad with fake certificates or in the pretext of more qualified than Telanganites, more qualified than Hyderabadites, more qualified than Hyderabad state people. So this is the background. And last point, which is not talked much but very important, the society was in some confusing state because a big number of people, Muslims, who were in the official positions were thrown away. Even small army people or policing duties were removed. Why? Because when Hyderabad state is merging with Indian Union, they were resizing the armed forces. You don't need the same number of army people for Hyderabad state. So in the resizing, almost what will happen, which community will be on the firing range? Ultimately, the Muslims. Why? Because Muslims were the people who were in the rule, in that sense, Nizam a Muslim rule, by de facto that Nizam is a Muslim and Razakar movement. In this background, many Muslims were removed from the posts. So what is happening in this scenario? The third aspect is there is a communal angle also, anti-Muslim angle also in this violation. So these are the basic points about violation. We will see how violations were done extensively in the coming topics. Now, how to resolve this? Burgula's government's efforts. Actually, we are giving the achievements here, so I am not going into detail. But when I am talking about 1952, we have some more material or some more things to discuss. Now about Burgula achievements. By 1st January 1954, 60% of posts were filled with all social groups. Means an equitable justice. Means people from different backgrounds, different cultural, religious backgrounds were recruited into jobs. So 60% of posts have a balance. Emphasis in Telugu administration is another important aspect Burgula has settled. This has brought some semblance because something has to be settled after the confusion from shift from Urdu to Telugu. Then special drive to employ in revenue department. Why there should be a special drive? Because the revenue department was full of officials which were under Nizam's rule, Nizam's government, linked with the feudal government, so feudal elements. So you have to, what you call, expel all the unwanted elements from the revenue department. To expel or to remove all the previous officials, you have to recruit freshly into revenue department. So this has brought some respite for the locals. Employment exchanges were started, one in Hyderabad, second in Warangal, third one is Aurangabad. Hyderabad was the central exchange and Warangal and Aurangabad were the regional employment exchanges. Later we can see employment exchanges were started in all the districts. So employment exchange, which will give you the notifications or posts or take your data and send the information about is happening here. Then Bikunur Training Center, skill development. A skill development center was developed at Bikunur to train the people. And all these things mixed with the last point to maintain law and order problem. The forces from the other areas, neighboring states, neighboring provinces were brought in. This is another achievement of Burgula government. Then comes the Mulki agitation, which is a major topic the Burgula government has to face immediately after his government started functioning. 1952 Mulki agitation. Today I will introduce what is this 1952 Mulki agitation, what are the basic aspects of it, why a new agitation has started in an independent Hyderabad state, and in the next class we can discuss about the nitty-gritty or the minute aspects, what happened in the 1952 movement, what are the consequences, what is Jagan Mohan Reddy committee, all those things we will talk in the next class. Today I will introduce what is the essence of 1952 Mulki agitation. For us, 1952 Mulki agitation is the first agitation for Telangana. I clearly say this is the first agitation for Telangana, though there is no demand for Telangana as a separate state. But this should be considered as the first agitation for a separate Telangana state. Why? It is not just jobs. It is identity they are fighting for. What identity? Telangana identity. They are fighting against the culture or the high-handedness of the people who came in 3 years and dominating the scenario, dominating the administration, dominating education, dominating culture. They are trying to dominate. The first agitation broke within 3 years. That is very important. In our Telangana formation, we have 3 phases. This is the first phase, 1952. Though there is no Jai Telangana, there is no state formation demand immediately. But the essence of this agitation is the identity of Telangana. That is why I call it as 1952 Mulki agitation is first agitation for Telangana. Though it has a limited thing, that is jobs for the locals. Famously, it is called as Idli Sambar Go Back movement. Why it is called as Idli Sambar Go Back movement? Even today in Telangana also we eat idli and sambar. Idli, dosha and everything. Why we call it as Idli Sambar Go Back movement? Because Telangana from the beginning has a different taste, different food habits. Idli, sambar and all these things are the main food items of Madras province. Madras province and Andhra province, you have the different eating habits. Now because of the acculturization, because of the assimilation of different cultures, you have all the foods today here in Hyderabad. But then we had different types of breakfast. I am explaining the culture, so I am trying to, for example, the basic thing, we have bun maska. Bun maska was our breakfast. We don't eat idli. Bun maska in Irani hotel, have you seen? Bun maska is basic thing. Or chota samosa. All these things are Hyderabadi foods, or Telangana foods. Otherwise, rural areas, they don't have breakfast culture. They used to eat jonna rottelu. Now, this idli and sambar is identified with Madras province. That is why the movement is known as Idli Sambar Go Back movement. The other slogan in this period was Go Back to Bejawada. Why again Bejawada? It is not Madras, it is not Idli Sambar means it is not Tamilian. It is the Andhrites from the Madras province. Why this has happened? Very important aspect here is the people who are in Madras province, those who can read and write Telugu and English, are brought into the employment. Why? When Velodi started his government or when the military administration has closed it, the medium of instruction, medium of governance, English and Telugu, now they have removed Urdu. Once the Urdu is in the backstage, what is happening? Who will be knowing Telugu or English will be brought in. And who will be knowing Telugu and English? Automatically the people who have studied in Telugu medium or English medium. And in Hyderabad state you don't have Telugu medium. What was the medium of instruction? It was Urdu. So all those who studied in Urdu Urdu medium or at loss. And the people who studied in Telugu medium or English, they are just making way into Telangana area or Hyderabad state and taking up jobs, teacher jobs. Very interestingly, many people came into education department. This is the first aspect of it. That is why the 1952 movement started from educational issue only. Started in the education institutions. We'll talk how it started, but education or students or education department is the basis for the first movement. Major pattern is settlement of Andhras between 1948 to 1952. So now the target or the Gair Mulki, the word is used for Andhras, not for all Gair Mulkis. For example, in any movement, in any agitation, Hyderabad did not give slogan, Rajasthanis go back, Marwadis go back. No one gave a slogan. It was particularly with the people who are usurping, means taking away the employment from the people who has the legitimate right. Telangana people has the legitimate right, but they are denied of that opportunity. Employment is taken away by Andhras. Andhras means need not be all the Andhra areas, need not be Srikakulam or corner areas. Most probably the developed coastal areas, those who have much developed agriculture, much developed infrastructure, they are taking up things here. This is one. Pre-1948, the contradiction was local and North Indian. I talked about Mulki issue. When we were talking about Mulki issue under Nizam, it is local versus North Indian. Why? Because all the officials were brought in from North or somewhere else. It is not the people from Madras province who are fighting, who are taking away the jobs. But post 1948, now the contradiction has changed. The contradiction is local versus Andhra. That is why when 1952 movement started, they gave the slogan that non-Mulki go back to Bejawada, or Idli Sambar go back. This is about non-Mulki movement. So finally, to conclude this, we have to talk about, means this conclusion will pave way for the next class. How these non-Mulkis got jobs? What are the methods they have used? First one is, whenever there is a recruitment process, they said there is no qualified local. So when you have a no qualified local, who will be joining the job? The non-local will take away the job. This is first method. Second one is, they joined into jobs on temporary basis and became permanent. Then third one, fake Mulki certificates. They are getting the Mulki certificates from the revenue department by bribing them and getting a fake Mulki certificate and taking up jobs. Then Telugu, as I said, Telugu replaced Urdu as a medium of instruction or official language. So automatically those who know Telugu will be they will be having an edge over the others, those who know Urdu. So finally, two other points are there. One is high-handedness of non-Mulkis or superiority complex of non-Mulkis, and the Vishalandhra impact. This, to conclude, I am concluding with the Vishalandhra impact. What is Vishalandhra impact? Andhras, since from the beginning, they are trying to make a bigger state with all the Telugu speaking people. They tried it even with Odisha. Telugu speaking areas in Odisha or Chhattisgarh, everything should be in one thing. This is the political slogan, that is Vishalandhra. So the Vishalandhra impact is there. Now that Vishalandhra impact we can see as the Andhras who are coming into jobs, they are enforcing or they are forcefully making the Vishalandhra concept into Telangana region. That is why we have got the repulsion during this period. These are all psychological aspects, but still the reason for Gair Mulki movement, reason for the 1952 movement lies in the happenings in 3 years, that is 1948 to 1952. So in the next class, we'll be talking about the 1952 movements, happenings, and very famous infamous city college incident, Jagan Mohan Reddy committee report, and aftermath.